introduce some special guests. Yesterday we were very blessed to have the Chancellor of the California Community College, Bryce Harris, here. He couldn't be with us here today, but we do have some other people. And if I say your name, if you'll sort of wave your hand, that would be wonderful. Vice Chancellor Linda McCloskey. Vice Chancellor Mike McGee. And I think Paul's here today. Vice Chancellor Paul Feast. There he is. The President of our Board of Governors for California Community Colleges, Manuel Baca. Board of Governor Lance Izumi. And Board of Governor Scott Heimelstein. Is he here yet? He might still be on the road. And then we have our FACCC President, Dennis Frisch. Executive Director of FACCC, Jonathan Lightman. FACCC Board Member, Cynthia Mosqueda. Yay. And Cynthia is also on our staff development, who helps plan events like this, and she's just phenomenal. And then the President and CEO of the Foundation for California Community Colleges, Keitha Mills. And one of the co-sponsors of this event, by the way. And then a special guest, the Secretary of the California Department for Veterans Affairs, retired Major General Peter Gravitz, who says to call him Peter. And then Kevin Graves, he's from CalVet's Vet Services. He's joining us for the day. And I'm not sure if Lindsay's here yet. Lindsay Sin, Deputy Secretary for Women Veterans. She's going to be one of our speakers this morning. Oh, there she is. Yay. And then yesterday, back in the corner, we have a wonderful Swank audiovisual who's been helping us with all the audiovisual here today, David Umfeet. And David donated his work today to the cause, so a special thanks to them. And a special thanks to all the staff here at Sofitel. Their service has been wonderful. Yesterday we had a very quick lunch. They were in efficiently and out efficiently, allowing you to be able to hear the presentation. And we just want to give them a round of applause for their nice service. I'd like to introduce Jonathan Lightman, Executive Director of FACCC.
Thank you, Sharon, and good morning, everybody. Just before I start, I would like all of us to give an extended round of applause to all the people who are serving us today and have been made this conference so wonderful. It's an absolute tremendous honor to be here and to be part of this historic effort. You've heard over the past day, and you'll hear today, a number of stories of veterans or people who have been touched by veterans. Very quickly, my own story, like so many in this room, I'm not a veteran, but my family has either served or has served those who have served. My mother was severely wounded in a foreign army in a foreign conflict. My father served in the United States Army in non-conflict times. I call my uncle every year. He's 86. I call him on Veterans Day to thank him for his service in World War II. And like so many of today's veterans, he says, well, you know, I didn't win the war on my own. And I said, well, you know, Uncle Bernie, I didn't think you did. I don't remember reading that in the history books, but I would hear the stories of how he was a sailor and there were ships in the area who were attacked by the suicide fighters known as the kamikaze fighters. And at that time, one never knew whether their ship would be next. And so what was his role? It wasn't a very high-ranking role. In fact, it was probably the lowest-ranking role of the enlisted men, but his self-appointed role was that he played the clarinet, and he did it to calm his nerves and the nerves of the sailors around him, and that was his role. And I call him up every Veterans Day to say thank you, and he says to me every Veterans Day, well, you're the only person that remembers that I served. And so this year I called, and like a lot of 86-year-olds, that he's having some health problems, and so he was asleep. I spoke to my aunt, and she said, oh, I know why you're calling, and I'll convey the message. And it's a ritual that we have every year, and I really hope to continue that ritual for so many years to come. And it's such a great tie-in to this event, because just as we honor the history of our service members and those who are returning to our community colleges, this event occurred because of the intersection of two parallel conversations. One was within the Chancellor's office. We had tremendous leadership from our President Manuel Baca and a former board member, Bobby McDonald, who really wanted to see this happen. And we at the Faculty Association, not knowing of those conversations, were pursuing our own conversations with one of the districts. And when we found out of one another's efforts, we merged this. And so this is the second year, and it gives me such great pleasure to be working with our partners in this endeavor, the Chancellor's Office for California Community Colleges and the Foundation for the California Community Colleges, as well as our sponsor, J.P. Morgan Chase. And I think that as we move forward, and all of you who are here and you're hearing the speakers and are learning the information, and you're taking it back and translating it to your districts and to your campuses, the message has to be that we're doing better in terms of serving our veterans in 2012 than we did in 2011. And as we move forward to 2013, we have to say that we did better in 2013 than we did at 2012. And you've heard the statistics, that the percent of our students who are veterans are increasing as the number of veterans overall are increasing. So the challenge for all of us is to show forward progress and to make sure that this is not the be-all and end-all today in Redwood City, but rather that we can go back, that we can train our colleagues, and not just as California Community Colleges that we serve our students, but as an institution that employs veterans in the faculty, in the classified and management ranks, that we honor our veterans that surround us in the California Community Colleges, and we do well by them. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jonathan. I want to reinforce that taking it home, because yesterday, and I was talking to the Mobile Vet Center staff, I've been pushing for a year, since last year at the Veterans Center, twice a year we have a day that all the faculty on our campus, close to 1,000 people are on our campus, and they have everybody's attention. And I said, let's honor our vets and make it all about vet services and the needs of our vets. And my Vice President of Student Services was here yesterday, and I think is here today. And we're going to try to team up and have that happen this year and invite the Mobile Vet Center and try to bring in other people to help the staff and the faculty become increasingly aware of the needs of our veterans. So take it home, pass it on. I'd like to introduce again Manuel Baca, the President of our Board of Governors for California Community Colleges.
Thank you, Sharon. Today is December 7th, 71 years ago today. The Imperial government of Japan sent 353 or so aircraft off of 6 carriers towards Pearl Harbor, and there was an attack on that day. The economic forces and the fascist regimes of the world had been rising over the 1930s. And that event that morning, which took the lives of 2,402 Americans, wounded another 1,282. On the Japanese side, there were much fewer losses. There were 68 individuals killed that day, along with some losses of aircraft and midget submarines. That event, which Franklin Roosevelt indicated was a day that would live in infamy, led us into a war that was already raging in many parts of the world, and as we know, took millions and millions of lives. And so we memorialize it, and the USS Arizona Memorial is one of those, and I know that today there'll be events there. It's not a holiday for the United States, but it is a day of commemoration. So I would like for us to just take a moment of silence and honor all those lost on that day, as well as those that have been lost in countless other wars, in order to ensure liberty and freedom. So if I could just have a moment of silence, please. Thank you. I'm very proud to say that I come from a family that has a long history of service in the military. I had two great-grandfathers Cordova with the New Mexico Volunteers who served in the Civil War on the Union side to rid the country of the evil of slavery. Helped that. I had a great-uncle in World War I, my great-uncle Sal, who I never met because he died before I was born, served in Europe. Little did he know in fighting that great war that his nephews actually would end up in a very short time being involved in another war to rid the world of the fascist regimes that led some countries and helped again preserve liberties and life and liberty for us. And uncles in Korea who served in the Navy and in the Army. My brother, my cousins, and I served in Vietnam and served tours of duties there. A nephew that served in Desert Storm. My son served in the immediate aftermath of Desert Storm in the Marines. And currently I have many young cousins, both young men and young women, who have served tours of duty in Afghanistan and in Iraq. So I'm very proud of that history, and the history, and particularly because they have fought on the side of righteousness. And we owe so much to those who have served, because they have indeed helped us preserve our liberties. And in doing so, they have made increasingly the world better. And certainly one of those indications of that sacrifice is not just something that we as Americans memorialize and honor and recognize, but it is something that I know the people of Japan and the people of Germany, who were great foes, who are now one of the strongest economies, or two of the strongest economies in the world, and our closest friends, really makes us recognize that we all, regardless of where part of the world we are all humans who seek a peace and freedom, and sometimes the darker elements do arise, as they did during World War II, during great economic strife, and take over governments and produce the wars. So we don't always know why we fight. We don't always know why we fight, but we hope that we fight for just causes. And I think it has always been